right, everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive into another juicy topic. Today, we're heading down under, getting you prepped for that dream trip to Australia.
He day, mate.
Now, I know you're already picturing yourself snorkeling the Great Barrier Reef, exploring the outback, all that good stuff. But before you break out the sunscreen, we gotta talk visas.
Essential that.
Yeah.
Can't very well have you rock up without the proper paperwork, can we?
Exactly. And you know us, we like to cut through the clutter and give you the most direct route to adventure. So we're diving deep into this source we found, all about navigating the Aussie visa process. And let me tell you, even for a seasoned traveler like myself, there were some surprises in here. Like, did you know, even for a short trip, we're talking a couple of weeks, maybe a month, depending on where you're from, you might still need a visa.
Oh, absolutely. Australia's got a pretty, shall we say, thorough immigration system.
Definitely thorough. All right, so this source breaks down all the different visa types, tourist, work, and holiday, which, side note, sounds like the best kind of work, am I right?
Sign me up.
Haha, exactly. But since we're all about making those travel dreams happen fast, we'll be focusing on the tourist visa today. Seems like the most likely scenario for our listeners, yeah.
Makes sense. It's the most common one for sure. Covers everything from sightseeing to, well, those quick trips you were talking about.
Perfect. Now, this source is great, breaks down the entire application process into 4 very clear steps. First up, the documentation. And fair warning, they go a bit beyond the usual passport and photo combo. You'll need those, of course, but here's a little curveball. A lot of people miss your passport. Needs to be valid for at least 6 months after your intended trip.
Easy to overlook.
Totally. So double check those expiration dates, folks. On top of that, you'll need a recent passport photo. No surprises there. Proof that you can actually finance your Aussie adventures. Think bank statements, credit cards, that sort of thing. And last but not least, a detailed itinerary.
Always good to have a plan. Even if you end up deviating from it, shows you've put some thought into your visit.
Exactly. All right, step 2, time for the paperwork. Don't worry, it's not as daunting as it sounds. The core of it all is Form 1419. That's the magic number for tourist visas. Now, you've got options here. You can either embrace the digital age and submit it all online, or do things the old-fashioned way through their embassy.
Online's generally smoother, I'd say. Quicker turnaround, too. But sometimes there might be specific circumstances where you need to go through the embassy. Best to double check on their website just to be safe.
Great advice. Now, of course, no visa application would be complete without a little fee involved.
Yeah.
And according to our trusty source, the cost does vary. So again, jump on their website, check the latest details, make sure you're covered.
Absolutely. And don't leave it until the last minute. Remember, these things can take time.
Perfect segue. Because that brings us to step 4, the moment of truth, submitting that application. And you know what they say, the early bird gets the visa? Applying early not only gives you peace of mind, but also avoids those last-minute hiccups that could throw a wrench in your travel plans.
Couldn't agree more.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. Okay, this seems pretty standard visa stuff. What's so surprising? But here's where it gets interesting.
Right. It's easy to get caught up in the mechanics of it, all the forms, the fees, the deadlines. But what I find fascinating is how these seemingly routine steps actually offer a really interesting glimpse into Australia's broader immigration system. It's about more than just ticking boxes. They're looking for genuine visitors, people who are genuinely interested in experiencing what Australia has to offer.
Right. It all clicks into place now.
Yeah.
So that financial proof, that detailed itinerary, it's not just about bureaucracy. It's about demonstrating your intentions,
Yeah.
right? Showing that you're not a risk. You're there to soak it all in, then head back home.
Precisely. It's a way of ensuring they're welcoming visitors who are genuinely invested in experiencing the country responsibly.
And you know what I really appreciate about this source? It doesn't just leave you hanging with a bunch of instructions. They offer personalized help throughout the entire process.
Oh, that's handy. Especially for first-timers, or if you've got a more complex situation, having that extra guidance can be a lifesaver.
Absolutely. They even have this awesome online visa guide you can check out. We'll drop a link in the show notes. Because let's be real, the less time you spend wrestling with paperwork, the more time you have to spend picturing yourself snorkeling the Great Barrier Reef.
Now you're talking. Priorities.
Always. But, you know, as we wrap things up here, it got me thinking, this source does a fantastic job of getting you to Australia, but what about once you've landed?
Ah, the real adventure begins.
Exactly. Are there any cultural considerations our listeners should be aware of, customs they should brush up on? Because reading about Australia's incredible culture is one thing, experiencing it firsthand, well, that's a whole other ballgame.
It certainly is, and a fascinating one at that. There's so much to discover beyond the tourist trail, so many unique customs and traditions. That's something for our listeners to ponder.
Absolutely. So, listeners, as you're busy prepping those applications, keep that in mind. What cultural discoveries await you beyond the paperwork?